Thanks for joining us for another episode of our Do-It-Yourself inspection series. Today, we're going to take you out to a mid-80s apartment complex. It's got vinyl siding, shingle roofs with no soffit overhangs. It's got clubhouses and carports. We'll see wood trim. We'll see a variety of issues. In this episode, we're going to be talking about decks. And again, we're going to be standing on the ground level looking at your decks and seeing where obvious points of flashing, where there's gaps, where we can put a measuring tape into that gap. If it's not measuring tape proof, it's not waterproof. And so we'll also be looking at the railings and how sturdy they are, how they're attached. We can see drainage, again, from the parking lot, or if there's standing water on those decks. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Building Doctor Show with Jens Johansson.
Now I'm at a typical deck. One of the first things I want to check is the soffit area. This is the covering. So I'm going to look wherever there's a post, and I'm going to look in the two corners where the deck meets the wall. So these corner intersections are hard to waterproof, so we start seeing leaks in the corners. I'm looking under here. Looks like this soffit material has been recently replaced, so I'm not seeing staining, and I do see a vent strip. And so that ventilation strip is important for the deck membrane to breathe. So decks are roofs, right? So this deck membrane is a roof over me. And so this roof area will heat up in the sun, and it needs to have proper ventilation for each joist bay so that it doesn't get skanky and water damaged inside. So this soffit looks fine. Wood deck rails, if we're using 4x4 posts, you'll want to see the whole 4x4 bolted onto the fascia. It was popular to cut out a 2x4 notch and slide the deck rail onto the deck. So you had this notched 4x4, if you will. Because you notched it, that made the equivalent of a 2x4. And so for a deck rail to have good stability, we know it needs to be at least a solid 4x4. And so we can just look at this and say, yep, not notched. Now depending on how the bolts are put into the blocking, but we can't see that with a visual. But we can walk by and say, yeah, okay, cool. It's not a notched deck rail. One interface of buildings that we're always looking at is deck to wall. So you have a flat area of a deck, and if it's not sloped properly, it's not draining. So if it's gathering water and water sits, it has to roll off the side. And so this is what we mean by a deck to wall. And so if the water is running directly off the side, it can run right behind the siding and then just be a focused bunch of water, getting in there causing problems. And so we can actually see pretty good wet pattern. It's okay that it's on the outside, but you can see some kind of blistering, buckling siding there a little bit. So again, because it's vinyl, you come up and hook it and look underneath it. The building paper is very wet here. I will probably have some water damaged gyp sheathing right here. And then when you're done, you can snap it right back into place. This deck perimeter edge flashing isn't done right, and I can't reach it. I totally dig this old carpenter's measuring tape. This was back in the day before we had steel retractable Fat Maxes from Stanley. One thing that's nice about it is it works great as a pointer. And so we're looking at a deck situation where we can see the exterior metal deck flashing. We were told by management that decks were recently redone. And so I'm concerned by the gap between the flashing and the deck membrane that I can put a wood tape into. So if this gap exists, this isn't watertight. And so the metal flashing should be wrapped up through this so that water can't get down in between. So again, it's just a simple walk by and go, why is that gap there? And so we can talk to hopefully the deck is under warranty, and we can talk to the installer, manufacturer, and say, hey, we need a little tune-up here. Another thing with deck rails, so that top rail, I like the posts and the thickness of the 4x4s, that's great. I can see a gap between the top rail and the building. I would expect that the top rail would be attached to the building, either with a bracket or some kind of bolt, or at least a toe screw or something, so that I can't do this to the railing. But we're not doing an engineered analysis of the railing, but it's pretty typical that the top rails are attached to the building when they can be, and I don't see that here. So walking around and looking at railing edge flashings again, similar joint here. I don't see the metal tying effectively into that. So in other words, water can flow right in behind here, get in behind the system, and I'd expect to see some staining under here. And hard to tell, but it looks like there's some swollen soffit material around these nails. Already the sealant is failing right there. So water is getting in behind there due to that lack of flashing. Here I'm looking at decks. I'm taking advantage of the soil being high, and I can see up onto the deck. So this is again a walk around of your building, and you can see, I can see slope. I can see deck slope. So if water or snow, it'll run off. And so these look like they have good slope. You know, the leaves need to be swept off. It's kind of, you know, the leaves are just falling, but I see good positive slope. So that's a great sign. If you see standing water on your decks, that's not a good thing. So kind of take a look around. I can see that deck as well, good slope. I can see the ones down there, good slope. So I feel more confident about the decks. Hey, thanks for watching this episode. Hopefully you picked up some tips and tricks on how to identify and avoid water damage on your building. I know this was a great 80s looking building, but if you follow our channel, you'll see all sorts of different buildings where we look at stucco and other types of siding, brick, windows. Check it out. Thanks for watching.